Welcome to Reliability Matters, a podcast for the electronic assembly industry. Each episode covers topics related to reliability, best practices, and environmentally responsible assembly techniques, with insights from experts across the electronic assembly industry. Now, here's your host, Mike Konrad.
Matt Kelly, IPC. Welcome back.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, same here. There's not too many people who have made it twice on the show, so usually we like to shake it up a little bit more. However, every year there's an APEX conference, and so it seems suitable to talk about APEX. And probably one of the most overly used sayings. So this happened. We're virtual this year. Tell me about that. I know IPC pushed off the show by a month or 6 weeks or so, hoping that the COVID situation would be better and they could pull off a live event. But I think the decision to go virtual was probably hard and easy all at the same time. Disappointing would be on the hard side, and obvious that we're nowhere near going back to normal was probably on the easy side. So what was that like? I know you're deep in the technical side of IPC. So, what was it like to have to kind of concede to the reality of COVID and be yet another virtual show?
Well, the decision was actually not a decision for us to make. This was coming from the facility, the state of California, the trade show exhibition itself. So those types of decisions, were coming down upon us. We essentially got lucky last year. I remember flying to San Diego last year, and I had a mask in my bag, but I didn't use it. And and then 6 weeks later, we all know what happened. So in essence, it's because of the length of time for this to resolve itself. It's now that it's a year old, everybody's been affected. So I guess you can consider it our turn. In regards to the virtual versus live event, we've all been at home for a long time. We'd all like this to be past us. But I think what I've also heard from the industry is a lot of home office, living room, kitchen table conversations, essentially, where people want to learn. You might be, I don't want to say bored. People are very busy, of course, but this is actually a really good opportunity where you can capture the attention of an audience without maybe some of the in-work distraction. So, a couple of points to start off with. I think, it's our turn, and we've embraced it.
Yeah, I like the point that you made. It's our turn. IPC is fortunate in a way that of the scheduling, they were the last live show and not the first virtual show. So that probably has a lot of benefit, because I think there are things to learn from shows that have gone virtual before APEX. One of the things that I'm quite thankful for is, and pass it on to all those people who made these decisions at IPC, I'm very thankful there's no virtual booths. I like the fact that this is a technical event and not just a trade show sales event, because I think that as much as technology has progressed, the fact that you and I can be in different countries, thousands of miles apart from each other, and still have this conversation, somehow that technology has not made its way down to virtual trade show booths. And I think that I applaud the shows that have tried to do that. I know they were trying to satisfy their exhibitors and pull off something as close to normal as possible, but there can't be anything less normal than a virtual trade show floor and a virtual booth and virtual employees and attendees in those booths. So I'm glad that IPC decided to make this, to concentrate on the technical side. I think that's what drives people to a show anyway, is the technical conference, and the show floor is, it's got a different purpose. So let's talk about the technical conference. Let's start with the keynote speakers. we have I believe there's 3 keynotes. Am I right, Matt?
Yes, that's right. We have 3 on 3 separate days. So our first is our president and CEO, John Mitchell. He'll be talking on Monday, March 8th at 12:30 Central. All the times posted in the brochure online, they're all marked as Central Time. That's important to know. John will be talking about Industry 2030, the big ideas reshaping the electronics manufacturing industry. So it's really about, we'll talk a little bit about Factory of the Future, but there's geopolitical shifts, there's technological progress. We're on the cusp of dramatic change, with how work gets done and how regional ecosystems are working together. So things like that, really kind of taking a broader picture of our electronics manufacturing industry. And then on Wednesday, we're really excited. We have Travis Hessman. He's editor-in-chief at Industry Week. And he will be talking, this is a Factory of the Future keynote. Again, you're noticing a theme here. His presentation and keynote will be called The Great Digital Transformation. And he's going to be discussing some insights and learnings from companies that have already taken the dive into transformation, how far along they are, the good things and the bad things, and then talking about very specific technologies like machine-to-machine systems, machine learning, artificial intelligence, a lot of the buzzwords that we hear every day, but really putting them to practice in companies. And that's at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, March 10th. And finally, we have our very own chief economist, Sean Duberbach. He'll be speaking on Thursday, March 11th at 8:15 Central. And he'll be talking about the technology industry in a post-pandemic world, again, with political and economic topics provided in there. So this, as you can see from these keynotes, it's not just about technology, about the hardware, about the process. It's IPC's pillars, where we're talking about advocacy, we're talking about technology, just really trying to move the industry forward as a whole. So hopefully you can see that in the keynotes.
Yeah, to read a quote, I think you were quoted in a magazine. This is APEX reimagined, reinvented, and Factory of the Future focus. So clearly, and then I think he went on to say, moving beyond core technologies. So this is not going to be a technical conference all about voiding and bottom terminated components. It's not going to be 72 presentations on the same subjects that we hear at most technical conferences. It sounds like you guys have changed it up a bit. I know there was a little bit of a buzz several months ago when, I'll say, the usual suspects would submit abstracts for the show, and not all of them, and they would normally be rubber stamped, and because they're the same people that speak at every show. And I know several of them, probably got their feathers ruffled a little bit because not all of the usual suspect abstracts were accepted this year, and I think now it seems obvious what the motivation behind that was. It was because you guys were changing the focus of the show. So it sounds like it's not just wash, rinse, repeat. It is something new. And is that the reason why that some people thought that IPC is not interested in their topic? It's not that they're not interested. I think you made a point in your interview that it's not that you're not interested in the core technologies. Those are very important, but I think you want to turn this show into something that it hasn't been focused on in the past, which is Factory of the Future and 2030 and things like you'd already mentioned. Is that right?
Yeah, as you're describing that, I'm smiling because I'm envisioning my phone ringing and with these conversations, because it did ring. Why was I not accepted in those types of conversations? And I had very and a lot of people, they're stalwarts in the industry. We know the type of work they do, and it's absolutely critical. The trouble is, just like with any show, there's only so much time, and you have to decide what you're going to focus on. And So it's not that the core. Let me address the core versus new first. So the idea. This is not just for Apex. This is for IPC in general. The core strategy is that if you look at the last 20 years, and I've had questions on, well, why are we not able to draw presentations like we used to, or why is the submission rate down in particular areas? And my answer is because we've published the daylights out of it for a good chunk of time now, and so it's a lot of Me Too type of work. And so what we want to do with the core technology is we are not abandoning it. I mean, we still make electronic hardware assembly. We still need solder. We still need assembly processes. But there's a lot more out there in coming from an operations standpoint. So again, with my me new coming into IPC, is I'm bringing in this operations and product focus view of technology. So in terms of the core technology, we absolutely have room for that, and but we want to focus on the new things, the new advancements within that. And a really good example is within our PCB track. You'll see a lot of content on microvia, HDI technologies, signal integrity, those types of things. There's a lot of new stuff happening in there. High-speed networks, 5G, that's the stuff we want to talk about. Do we necessarily need to talk about surface finish? Again, not that these are not important topics, they're absolutely important, but if it's kind of regular, already reported type of information, we're really urging the industry to think outside the box in their area so that they can come to a show or to the community with new other data streams of how they're generating their quality insights, or just something new about it. But that's really why we're trying to push so hard. So yeah, my phone rang, but after I had these conversations with these people, they understood it, and I hope that when we look back kind of after the show here, that that members, participants, the industry in general, we're really trying to move the needle forward here. We do not use wash, rinse, and repeat, and that's just not what we're trying to do here. So
Yeah,
building on the core and then moving into some new areas, which we can talk about further.
Yeah, perfect. I think you're planning also on talking about or updating 2591, IPC 2591. Tell my audience what 2591 is and what its progress is.
IPC 2591 is IPC's Connected Factory Exchange protocol. This is, if just a little bit of history, we're at about the 5-year mark now. So for those that were involved, very first meetings in Las Vegas, I believe, talking about the need for an industry standard so that data can flow from the shop floor. So we've come quite a ways from that. We have an industry approved and adopted standard. We are about to release revision 3 of that. Essentially, the core and the shell of the architecture is there, and we're building content. We're adding messaging. We're looking at different areas in the processes to expand. So we've basically got the shell, if you want to think of it that way, and now we're really getting into the implementation. The standard started within what we would call classical SMT assembly processes. So you can start at the screen printer and go down the line. But what we're doing right now is we're actually looking to expand that. There's a lot of really interesting technologies with point of contact type of devices. So these are things like AGVs coming to a line. There's a lot of work being done right now in the back end of lines. So for mechanical automation, in circuit test, functional test, those types of, you can imagine all the manual processes. So there's a lot of work going on right now with the standard. It's still developing, and in terms of the focus moving forward for the group it's all about implementation. So we're kind of at the point where the paper's good, it works, we've got agreement, and now it's transitioning onto the shop floor and making it come alive, if you will. So that's really where the standard and the initiative for CFX really is right now for the industry.
Very good. And speaking of standards, normally in a real world, when there's no COVID and we can actually go on airplanes and shake hands with people, we have standards meetings at APEX. So what's the status of standards meetings? Are they still going forward? Or obviously, if they are, they'll be in a virtual format. What's the status of that?
That's right. You talked about benefits of virtual. Here's another one where the committee meetings will not be in direct competition time-wise with the conference. So we have committee meetings scheduled virtually, separate groups, starting at the end of February and carrying all the way through to the end of March. Again, avoiding the conflicts with the conference week. So it's a really nice way for people that may normally have to decide to spend their time in a committee meeting versus the technical conference to, again, enjoy both and to learn at the conference as well as participate at the committee meetings.
Yeah, excellent. The technical sessions are not live, right? They are recorded, well, first of all, before I ask the next question, let me just confirm that the technical sessions are recorded. Is that right?
Yeah, that they're pre-recorded, but the speakers will be in the session, ready for live Q&A at the end. It's really to avoid technical gotchas, during the live session.
Oh, I get it. That's when we produce virtual events. We do the same thing. Nothing. It looks live, but nothing is live because when it's live, you're just inviting technical drama to come in. But I do like that hybrid approach. I do like the idea of having it recorded. That guarantees a smooth presentation and takes away a lot of the variables. And the hybrid side, having a speaker there to answer questions. So that's kind of the best of both worlds. How long will that content be available for? Clearly the advantage of an on-demand is you can watch it whenever you want. You can watch it at 2:30 in the morning if you have insomnia. But if you want to watch it again, how long is that content good for?
90 days from the beginning of the event.
Okay.
So it's important that we say that because 90 days from when there's people kind of coming in at different times. So what's neat is that we encourage you to attend the live show, but there's only so much you can absorb. Even if you want to learn it all and know it all, there's only so much you can take in. So you've got 90 days. That puts you into the first week and a half into June, so you can really consume all that content. The other really interesting thing that I just want to bring up is geo. So a lot of times, people are, travel constraints. The farther away, the bigger the trip, the more expensive, those types of things. But essentially, attendees can be in a 13-hour time zone away and still participate in this. Now, yes, you're not logging in, live during that show, but because these are all recorded, including keynotes, you can be having access to this content no matter where you are in the world. So another benefit of there's always pros and cons. I would want to be back at the live show as soon as we possibly can, but if you think about it, there's some really, really nice things coming out of this as well.
Yeah, I can almost see a model moving forward when the world returns to normal, whatever that looks like. I think the genie's out of the bottle to a certain degree, and the benefits of virtual, there's certainly drawbacks of virtual, but there are certainly measurable benefits for virtual. And I see shows moving forward maybe having a hybrid virtual component to it where maybe there are live sessions that are also recorded on site and made available. I think that is one of the dilemmas I always have is I have a very peculiar interest list and topics, and quite commonly I have a choice as I'm walking down that conference center aisle. Do I go in room number 1 or room number 2? Both presenters I want to hear, and they're happening at the same time. So you have to start paring down, which one do you want to see more than the other? So hopefully there'll be an opportunity for shows to embrace the concept of live, where there's the benefit of social interaction and live Q&A, and also have it recorded so that one can fly out to San Diego or Anaheim or wherever the show is going to be that year experience the event and then catch a virtual version of the ones they could not see because of scheduling conflicts. I think that would be a good takeaway from everything we're learning right now. So I looked through the professional development courses that are being offered and the technical sessions, and there's a lot. There's an awful lot to choose from. So I just did a quick search, and from the ones I plan on attending, not that would mean my audience is planning on attending, but because this show is all about reliability, I'm really looking for things that are reliability centric. So I kind of dig the professional development course 1, reflow soldering processes and influence on defects, an in-depth look. So, you know, they say everything that goes wrong with the board starts at the print process, and the print process and the reflow process are kindred spirits. So I think that would be a very interesting course. I also like the one on March 8th, which is Professional Development Course number 2, Design and Assembly Process Challenges for Bottom Terminated Components such as QFNs. Ray Prasad is teaching that. BTCs in my business, in the cleaning business, BTCs are probably the greatest thing for our business, because they, between voiding, which traps a lot of flux underneath, and the fact that electrochemical migration issues tend to be exacerbated by low standoff components, highly densely populated low standoff components. BTCs are the poster child for that. So I think that is going to be a very good presentation as well. I also am very interested in the Preventing Manufacturing Defects and Product Failure course by my friend and colleague Jenny Huang. I think that will be an extremely interesting course on the subject of reliability. Also, Professional Development Course number 6, Design for Excellence, DFM, Design Manufacturing, DFR, DFA, a lot of DFs here, DFF. Dale Lee from Plexus will be teaching that. And on March 9th, Professional Development Course number 15, which is PCB Quality Metrics that Drive Reliability. That is being taught by Banu Sood. Hopefully I'm not slaughtering his name too badly. He's from NASA Goddard Flight Center. And I had an opportunity to speak at NASA Goddard Flight Center. That's an amazing facility. I don't know if you've ever been there, Matt, but it's an absolutely amazing facility.
It is.
And then probably my all-time favorite, my friend and colleague Doug Pauls is teaching a course on the new IPC J Standard 001, specifically Section 8, which completely revamped cleanliness quantification standards. And, you know, that really fell hard onto our industry. And I think that's worth going to, because one phrase that Doug doesn't like a whole lot is when someone asks a question, when the answer is, it depends. And the answer to the question, how clean is clean enough, from IPC is now officially, well, it depends. You do the testing, you do the research, you come up with objective evidence, and then you tell us how clean is clean for you. So he and his team, what he calls his Rhino team, developed this new amendment to the J standard, and it's been out now for a couple of years, and it's a game changer, and it was long needed. The old cleanliness standards were designed in the 70s, and I think they were the result of, you know, throwing a deck of cards in the air and seeing what numbers fall onto the ground. I think they were not very applicable to a lot of different applications. So this was a well-needed rewrite and reboot of the cleanliness standards, and he's teaching that course on March 11th. Well worth it. And then on some of the technical sessions, we have PCB quality reliability and AI-based inspection. That really is interesting, particularly the AI-based inspection. We also have a whole track on automotive electronics. That is extremely exciting to me, because automotive seems to be the poster child for when things go wrong, bad things happen, right? So the reliability of electronics in automotive is huge, particularly with the increasing pace of electrification of automobiles. Things just can't go wrong. And it's funny, the auto industry used to be a mechanical industry with a few electronic components. It's very much now an electronic industry with some mechanical parts, and it's definitely changed its focus. And I know the automotive industry has their own standards, and IPC is working with the auto industry to harmonize some standards as well. IPC's done a lot of work and have been building electronics for a long time, so I know the automotive industry can benefit from that. So I'm very interested to hear what they have to say. And I know there's many other technical sessions as well. I think there's about 70 or so. Is that about the right number?
Yeah, just touching a little bit on that, back to your earlier question as well, when we had to turn abstracts away, we have a fully built 3-track conference. This year we had to turn over a third of abstracts away, if you can believe it. And that comes from the strong demand from areas like automotive, but also largely from our Factory of the Future track. So yeah, lots of really good content. One thing also I'll mention is what we talked about the core earlier, and not abandoning the core instead of we're building on top of it. So what you'll notice, attendees will get a chance to spend more time in the core technologies in the PD sessions. So you can learn from the instructor, longer time in the course, deeper dives into the topic. So a lot of that core technology, if you look at the program as a whole, is coming from the PD sessions. When you look at the new stuff that we're bringing forward, you will notice that, with Factory of the Future track and some of these other new technologies, it's coming through a little bit more in the actual technical conference itself. So when you look at APEX as a whole, attending PD and the technical conferences, you've got the core plus the new.
Yeah. When I read your quote about kind of skipping away from the core technology and going more into Factory of the Future and things like that, and then I read that and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then when I looked at the abstracts and the professional development course content, I'm like, no, there's a lot of core still in there. It's just emphasized differently. And if you're going to get into the core, it's really hard to get into core subjects in a 25-minute presentation, which is a traditional time allotment. I think a lot of the core stuff belongs in the 3-hour or so professional development course. That's when you can kind of dig deep into the weeds. It's just hard to get, by the time you get your shovel out, in a normal session, the subject's over, right? So I like the idea of bringing in the real experts and diving deep and having the time to dive deep. That's where I think core technology is it should be placed anyway. So I think that's a good move.
If you look at the attendees as well, Mike, who signs up for what? I mean, a lot of the attendants of PD courses, they might be new to the industry, it might be a new area or a new assignment. So they're really, really truly learning about that element. People that are going into a technical conference, a lot of them know their stuff and they can assess a presentation in 5 minutes. So really making sure we're addressing the right audiences as well.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Any other show-related news that my audience should hear about?
Yeah, well, I want to just talk a little bit about, Mike, about the where this information is coming from. So I'm assuming people are looking at the program and deciding on their own if it's good or not, and if it's new or not, and who's coming forward this year with material. And when we talked last time on your podcast, we talked about IPC integrating with industry work groups more. And that has not stopped. It's core to our mission moving forward. And so what you'll see in the program too is that we've partnered very significantly with some partners we've worked with for many years, like INEMI and HDP, for example. They both have sessions on noteworthy topics like 5G and a couple of different reliability topics. But we also have newer partners, which some may not be familiar with. For example, MTC. This is the Manufacturing Technology Center out of England in the UK. And they They are doing some phenomenal things with Factory of the Future. And this is not about presentations and slideware. This is about actual running equipment with software and data flowing. So there's some really neat things just showing how far ahead Europe and some of the other geographies are with this. We also have PSMA, the Power Source Manufacturers Association. So we have a course that's brand new that will be talking about electronic power design. But we also have a session led by Mike Hayes and the team from Tyndall in Ireland, where we're talking about really cool things like energy harvesting for sensors. You can imagine, I kind of saw this really funny little article where, with all these, the billions of sensors, we created a new job, and it's the person going around and replacing all the batteries in these sensors, all day long. And that's kind of humorous when you think about it. So you need to power these things, and vibration off of equipment and having self-generating power for sensors is another area. So the last one I'll mention is a FOA. This is our e-textiles initiative, which my colleague Chris Jorgensen leads. And this is about embedding electronics in fabrics and thinking about those types of challenges as well. So when you add it all up, MTC, PSMA, INEMI, HDP, and a FOA, this is where the work is being done at a work group level, industry-wide, and we're basically bringing that into the show.
Well, that's excellent. There's a lot going on, and it's going to be very interesting. There are two obvious changes this year. One is the virtual format, and one is the focus. So there's a lot going on. This is a different APEX than in years past, in more ways than just the fact that people will be looking at a screen rather than sitting on United Airlines and getting $20 hot dogs and things like that. So it's going to be a different experience, and hopefully there'll be more takeaways. Obviously, we know what we're not going to do. We're not going to have the face-to-face. We're not going to have the technical conversations over a drink at a bar. However, I think there are plenty of other benefits associated with any trade show that goes virtual, particularly the ones that we mentioned. The fact that the conference is available for 3 months, the fact that it's you can watch something. If you didn't quite catch something, you could rewind it and hear it again, which is something that most speakers frown on when hands go up and go, "Can you repeat that?" over and over and over again. This can happen without shame, and it can be watched many times, and you don't have to have a process of elimination. You don't have to figure out what you want more than any other, and you can have it all. So I think that
exactly.
I think that's going to be a benefit, and hopefully the technical conference will exceed in registrations and access more than it would have had it been in a convention center. So I think that's certainly possible. So time will tell. Matt, I really appreciate you being here, and thanks for all the work you're doing at IPC. You've been there now for you left IBM and you went to IPC, and how long have you been there now?
1 year, end of January. So
you started at the perfect time, right at the beginning of a pandemic. So.
6 weeks before the pandemic, and who would have thought that was a good idea, but it certainly was.
Yeah, well, IPC, the last IPC APEX Expo certainly did shut down the rest of the world. I mean, you guys were the last event, to probably happen, the last large event to happen. I remember walking the aisles of the show, and it seemed fairly normal. There was a buzz, about this virus. No one knew a whole lot about it. But I think one of the obvious things was, and it was a little strange to see, but many of the booths from Chinese manufacturers were empty because all of a sudden the U.S. clamped down on people visiting from China. So that was kind of the first ominous look, the first telltale sign that something's different this year. But we were able to pull off a good show because it was the very 11th hour, but at least we were able to do it. So I wish you and the team at IPC all the best of luck. Break a leg, as they say. I don't know why people say that, but that seems to be the common thing to say when you're putting on a performance. So I appreciate what you're doing at IPC, and I appreciate the staff behind the scenes that are pulling off a virtual version of this event. I know it's not easy. I know there's a lot of last-minute changes that had to be made, and I'm sure that some people were ecstatic they didn't have to travel, and some are deeply disappointed they can't travel. But I think the content of the technical session is first-rate, and particularly the professional development courses, and I'm looking forward to participating.
Mike, thanks for having me on. And just if your viewers and listeners are wondering where they can go, just a quick reminder. To register, you can visit ipcexpo.org. And if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about the Factory of the Future content, you can visit apexfuturefactory.ipc.org. Thanks for having me on the show, Mike. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks, and I'll look forward to seeing you again. Hopefully face-to-face, but this isn't half bad, but hopefully face-to-face next time. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, that's another episode. Thanks for listening or watching the Reliability Matters podcast. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe to Reliability Matters on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or virtually wherever you get your podcasts. A video version of this podcast is available on our Reliability Matters YouTube channel. Be sure and subscribe to that as well. A special thanks to Circuit Assembly Magazine's PCB Chat at pcbchat.com and Ascendo Reliability at reliability.fm for syndicating the show. Thanks for your questions and episode suggestions. Please keep them coming. Send comments to my email address, mike@mikekonrad.com. That's Konrad with a K. Once again, thanks for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep doing it right.
Thanks for listening to the Reliability Matters podcast. Join us on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month for new episodes of Reliability Matters.